Hi, I'm Irving, and I have no life, just like you. A while back, one of the gaming websites took a vote to decide the greatest game villain of all time. There were several rounds of voting, pitting this villain against that one, going through eliminations until it got down to the final two. I don't know who selected the original lineup, but that lineup included villains from two of my favorite game series, Fear and Bioshock. The only problem was, they got the villains wrong in both cases. For Fear they had Alma, but she's not the villain in that piece. She's a ridiculously powerful psychic, true, but she's also a child who was driven insane by the abuse she suffered. It was the same with Bioshock. They listed Andrew Ryan. Yes, he's the guy who created the place where the games take place. Yes, he's the arrogant idiot who decided that in his city anything goes and there's no morality or culpability. But by the time you get into the first game, he's lost control of the place and is basically in hiding. You deal with him long before the end of the game. The real villain there is a guy who's truly evil and is actually the final boss. Once again, if the website people wanted a truly level playing field, Ryan wouldn't have been the villain from Bioshock. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Bioshock is the story of an individual who gets stranded in a bizarre underwater city called Rapture, where gene splicing is a way of life and pretty much everybody is completely nuts. It begins with a plane crash in 1960, somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean. Your character's on the plane, naturally, and when you come up, you have to swim to this little lump of land near where the plane is sinking. The lump of land has a huge lighted tower on it out here in the middle of nowhere. What's it doing there? How does it just happen to be there? Doesn't matter. You swim to it and go inside and open a door. Lights come on automatically as you enter, a good trick in 1960, and you go down several flights of stairs until you come to a big bathysphere. So you go inside it and pull the lever.
I am Andrew Ryan, and I'm here to ask you a question. Is a man not entitled to the sweat of his brow? No, says the man in Washington, it belongs to the poor. No, says the man in the Vatican, it belongs to God. No, says the man in Moscow, it belongs to everyone. I rejected those answers. Instead, I chose something different. I chose the impossible. I chose Rapture.
One of the more delightful things about this game is how what you encounter, what you hear, the weapons, the music, and everything else are an accurate reflection of the time period. Music sounds like it's being played on a typical late 50s record player. And if you have to ask me what that is, never mind. Video is obviously on film. The way people talk is characteristic of the period. These people did their research and did an excellent job. So the bathysphere stops and some lunatic with metal hooks starts trying to get in. Fortunately for you, he can't. Then a voice tells you to pick up a radio. The guy on the other end calls himself Atlas and he wants to keep you alive. Why? He doesn't say. But at the moment he's all you've got. You find your first weapon, a wrench, and use it to break through some debris so you can get to higher ground. Atlas keeps talking about splicers and what a problem they are. The guy with the hooks comes back, but Atlas chases him off with some kind of flying robotic machine gun. You head up some stairs where you kill your first splicer by beating him with your wrench. You discover that you can search him and get some stuff off him, including a med kit. Nearby is a table with some food on it and you gain health from eating it. The tutorial is now in full swing. Up another flight of stairs and you come upon this. Your life is about to get more surreal than you could ever have imagined. you gradually wake up, you see some weird stuff. But eventually, Atlas contacts you again and tells you that you have a fistful of lightning. And indeed you do. Electrobolt is a plasmid, a potion that alters your genetic code so you can store and throw electricity. Plasmids are powered by Eve, another compound that you find all over this place. If you run out of Eve, your plasmids don't work. So you want to have as much as possible on hand because these plasmids are a blast. I'm pausing here to mention something unique about this game, the health system. Not only can you heal yourself with med kits, you can gain small amounts of health from eating. There's also plenty of liquor and other alcoholic beverages around, and you can get good and drunk if you choose. It affects your health and your level of Eve, something that will become very important very soon. And then you can find cigarettes and smoke them. They take your health down, of course, but their inclusion is a big piece of authenticity because in 1960 almost everybody smoked. Don't ask me how I know that. Having booze and cigarettes lying around is another bit of realism that actually puts you in a 1960 setting. So what's a splicer? Well, you get to take out several of them, but there's a typical example along with Atlas's explanation of why the whole city is such a wreck.
Oh, no, no, no. Baby and me! Baby and me!
Plasmids changed everything. They destroyed our bodies, our minds. We couldn't handle it. Best friends butchering one another. Babies strangled in cribs. The whole city went to hell.
Aw, the baby looks just like her. Assuming she looks like this. So, now we know why the place is populated by crazies, and why the best thing to do with them is kill them on sight, because they'll do the same for you. Atlas wants you to get to a place called Neptune's Bounty and rescue his family from the splicers. So off you go. Now you have a nice compass point to direct you, which is a very nice feature. I don't know how many times I've been making my way through a game and sat for minutes asking, where the heck do I go now? This one tells you. I like it. The weirdness is just getting started. Next you see a couple more major character types.
That's the big daddy. She got it out of him. He keeps her safe.
The child is a little sister. They carry Adam, which is the substance that makes all this genetic stuff possible. If you watch closely, you'll see them draw it out of corpses with their special syringe, then drink it. Dead guy in a bottle. Mm-mm. And the big daddies are their protectors, as Atlas explained. The little sisters and big daddies, why aren't they big brothers since the girls are little sisters?
I'll tell you. I don't know.
Anyway, both will figure prominently in your life from here to the end of the game. So you get moving, acquire more weapons including a machine gun, and encounter a security block that's going to require a key from someone named Dr. Steinman. You've been picking up taped journals along the way, and someone named Diane has been seeing Andrew Ryan and getting surgery from Steinman. You begin to get the feeling that he's not a very nice person. Atlas says he's not even sure Steinman is still human. Oh goody, this promises to be weird. As you go along, you discover several new things, including hacking. There are automated turrets, security cameras, health stations, and other machines that can either help you or hurt you. If you hack a machine, it becomes friendly to you and will provide you with some kind of benefit. Guns, cameras, and such will react to your enemies, basically everybody that isn't you, and attack them. Vending machines will give you better prices, and health stations not only cost less, but will do damage to enemies if they try to use one. To hack a machine, you have to play a little mini-game that'll probably look familiar. You build a pipeline from point A to point B by swapping segments. The needle at the beginning tells you how hard this machine is going to be. As you saw, you can also buy the machine out for a certain number of dollars. Oh yeah, you've been finding dollars scattered all over the place. If you don't succeed in the hack, the machine short circuits and does damage to your health. Anyway, you can't get to Steinman because some idiot threw a bomb and blocked the entrance to the surgical suite. Atlas tells you that you need to find a telekinesis plasmid so you can continue. Off you go looking for it, and you come across a tonic. Tonics are the same thing as plasmids, only different. They give you new abilities or benefits, but aren't necessarily offensive weapons like plasmids. You have a certain number of slots for plasmids and various kinds of tonics, and you usually end up with more items than you have places to put them. It's all very complex, but at certain points you can buy more slots. Don't worry. So you're wandering around what's basically a funeral parlor looking for telekinesis. Like any good game, it's not about to be that simple. First you find Incinerate, which lets you throw fire. That means you can melt the ice blocking yet another area, which is where you need to look next for... What was it we were after again? Oh yeah, telekinesis, so we can get into the surgery suite and find Dr. Steinman and get his key so we can get past the security gate and get to Neptune's bounty so we can rescue Atlas's family. Simple! Steinman's a nutcase, of course. He thinks Picasso had the right idea, and he does the same thing with people's faces. Naturally, his victims are appalled, but he doesn't care. He's also a splicer and your first boss fight. After you kill him and get the key, you start back toward the security gate, but you discover a little sister whose big daddy has been destroyed. Atlas tells you this is your chance to get Adam because you can harvest it from her. A woman starts yelling at you to leave the little one alone. She's identified as Dr. Tenenbaum, basically the one who turned these little girls into what they are in the first place. She tells you there's a different way and tosses you a tonic. Now you have a choice. There's a certain number of little sisters in each level, and each time you encounter one, you have this choice. What you do has an effect on the end of the game, as well as how much Adam you get. If you harvest, the girl dies, but you get more Adam. If you rescue, you get less Adam, but you can have a clear conscience if that's important to you. And you don't have to do the same thing every time. So experiment with it and see what happens. You spend Adam at a machine called a Gatherer's Garden. Different Gatherer's Gardens have different stuff available. For example, from now on, when you see a little sister, you'll have to take out her big daddy before you can deal with her. They call the Big Daddies Mr. Bubbles. But now that you have the security key, you can open the door to the bathysphere and head on to Neptune's bounty. You've now been introduced to most of the general concepts that will populate the game. There are a few specifics you haven't seen yet, like different kinds of splicers, but you have most of the knowledge you need to get through the rest of the game and enjoy it to the max. From here, some parts of the game get a bit repetitive. But it's not a bad kind because the objectives, the enemies, and the settings are varied enough to keep things interesting. There are plenty of machines and safes to hack, and the safes always have lots of goodies in them. Hacking gets progressively harder as you go along, which is normal for any good video game. While it doesn't really seem like it, the primary goal in this game is dealing with the little sisters. They live in those vent things along the walls, and if you rescue one, she'll go climb into one. Dr. Tenenbaum keeps up a running commentary of your treatment of them because that's all she cares about. At the moment, you're still following Atlas's guidance, with Ryan tossing occasional barbs at you. If you rescue the little sisters, they occasionally leave a gift for you at the next Gatherer's Garden. Here's an example. Aw, it's in a nice little teddy bear. Nice touch. As you saw, the gift usually includes a good quantity of Adam, maybe not as much as you would have gotten if you had harvested them all, but enough to get what you need. Still, I recommend playing the game more than once and trying it several ways. Rescue them all, harvest them all, alternate, harvest one and rescue the others. The variations are pretty well endless. As long as Tenenbaum's yapping doesn't drive you bonkers, it's a lot of fun. Now you can start using some of your Adam to unlock additional slots for things like plasmids and tonics. The slots are expensive, but worth it.
Flowing, the changes will be flowing. If you wanna be a patient, see the flowers we are raising.
If you have more items than you have places to carry them, the extras get stored in a gene bank. There are machines scattered here and there where you can swap them out, like this one. So Atlas tells you his family is hiding in a submarine in Fontaine Fisheries. But when you find your way to the door, there's some nut in a welding hood named Peach Wilkins, of all things, who wants you to find him a research camera before he'll let you in. He's afraid of Fontaine, but for some reason a camera will satisfy him. Atlas tells you that everybody knows Fontaine is dead, but most everybody else you meet in Rapture isn't so sure. As you go along, you find more of those audio diaries that reveal a lot about Fontaine. He was running a smuggling operation, somehow practically cornered the market on Adam, and was making a move against Ryan for control of the city. This is a bad character, so if Atlas is right and he's dead, that's probably a good thing. But considering the condition of the city, it's probably too late to save it in any case. Back to business. You head to the Wharfmaster's office to find the camera that old Peach wants. I figure in 1960, you have to be very secure in your manhood to be willing to go by a name like Old Peach. The Wharfmaster's office is protected by all kinds of automated turrets, security cameras that send those flying robots after you, even a turret that fires grenades. But once you get the camera, you start using it. There's a splicer in the next room behind some safety glass so he can't do anything to you. Take his picture and see what happens. As you do research on various kinds of splicers, you unlock ways to do more damage to them. You can also research inanimate objects like bots and cameras, and you can research big daddies and little sisters with beneficial results. Each picture you take is graded, with A being the best, just like when you were in school. The higher the grade, the fewer pictures you have to take to get to the next level of damage improvement. It's a neat mini-game that continues right up to the end. So anytime you encounter splicers, don't forget to have your camera handy. You'll appreciate the rewards. The diaries, meanwhile, are telling us something very interesting. Tenenbaum discovered Adam by accident when a worker who'd been paralyzed was bitten by a particular sea slug. Within minutes after the bite, he could move his hands again. She analyzed the slug and found that something in it made gene restructuring possible. At the same time, you hear a diary from a mother who's trying to figure out why Ryan's men would kidnap her little girl. Do you suppose there's a connection? Eventually, you get pictures of 3 spider splicers, so it's time to head back to Peach. This guy's almost as goofy. He wants you to give up your weapons, so you have to deal with a passel of splicers and a couple of security bots with nothing but your plasmids. And I'm really not sure what the point is, because you go through about 2 rooms and you get the weapons back. Hey, just go with it. One thing I have to emphasize yet again in this game. You want to search everywhere and everything. A lot of stuff is empty. I came upon a stack of 9 smugglers' crates and there wasn't a blasted thing in any of them. But you never know, so check everything. In this place, you want to have your incinerate plasmid handy, because anywhere you see a big patch of ice, you want to melt it down. Sometimes there'll be goodies in the ice, sometimes it'll open a door where there could be other goodies, sometimes it's totally pointless. But that's one of the really interesting things about this game. You just don't know. So it's worth the effort to find out. Ultimately, you reach a little corridor through a hole in the wall, and Atlas says you're there. So go rescue his family. He still hasn't really explained why you should give a rip, but you'll do it anyway. Why? Because if you don't, there's no more game to play. Duh! Unfortunately, the rescue doesn't go quite as planned.
Moira! Can you hear me in there, darling?
So dark in here. If only your friend could look up and see. Maybe only could do something, anything. Except just stand here and watch him die.
Splicer! They're everywhere! I can't hold them! Got to fall back! Get me family out and we'll regroup as soon as we can!
Suddenly you find yourself picking up weird random stuff in your searches, like empty hypodermics, rubber hoses, kerosene, who knows what else. What's it for? You're about to find out when you come upon your first You Invent machine. Okay, it's not really inventing since you're not making anything new or innovative, just stuff that already exists and that you can probably use. But it's another way to get things like ammunition, so take it. So you're trying to get to the next stop, but for some reason Ryan decides to release a poison into the air and kill all the trees in the place. No trees means no oxygen, which means everybody gets to suffocate. He's just given you a speech about a forest he owned on the surface, and rather than let the parasites take it over for public use, he burned it to the ground. Oh yeah, this guy's stable enough to run a city where genetic engineering is commonplace. Sure he is. But his erstwhile girlfriend, a woman named Langford, is the one who tends the trees, and she has a possible way to neutralize the poison and save the trees! But obviously she can't come out of her little hidey hole and get the ingredients herself. You have to do it for her. These are some of the most helpless, highly intelligent idiots I've ever come across. So you get the flour she needs, but when you get to her office, Ryan releases a poison and kills her too. She manages to scribble a number on the window. You get to figure out what it means.
Point of being a damn genius if the only ones around to appreciate it are a bunch of spliced up morons. I've cracked the vector, or at least I'm 99% certain I have. I just need a bud of Rosa gallica to confirm my analysis. Distilled water, a bit of chlorophyll, and enzymes extracted from Apis mellifera. That's right, sweetheart. Honeybee spit.
Guess what? You need to find a bunch of crap to invent her Lazarus Vector and save the trees! If you've been searching everywhere like I said, you already have a bunch of the chlorophyll solution. You'll find more in obscure places, some even on splicers that you have to deal with. But Atlas tells you to head to the farmer's market for the specific stuff you need. Forward to the next level, the quest awaits! You're collecting 7 samples each of 3 items: chlorophyll solution, distilled water, and a certain bee enzyme. Conveniently, there's a honey production place in the farmer's market with tons of beehives to search. There's even a couple of levers that release smoke into the room to keep the bees away while you search. Too bad the smoke doesn't work on splicers. They're a much bigger nuisance than the bees.
See you in the city. That's right.
You'll notice that when I'm standing still, I vanish. That's a tonic called natural camouflage that I picked up somewhere along the way. It's really handy. Basically, anytime you have some atom and can get to a gatherer's garden, one of the first things you should do is unlock more slots for tonics and plasmids because they're lying all over the place. But you have to have a slot to put it in before you can use it, or you have to swap it for something else. So more slots equals good. That comes from the by the way department. As for the distilled water, you'll find that in a winery next door to the bee place. You found a handy diary in which a guy was complaining that the winemaker watered his wine down. But the winemaker said it's okay because he was using distilled water. Could that be a clue? Only one way to find out. Being a winery, it has a massive cellar that's basically another maze. But at least the bottles of distilled water are glowing like electric light bulbs, so they're easy to find. After you have all the ingredients, you head to a U-Invent machine and use it to make the Lazarus Vector. Now it's back to Arcadia to put it in Langford's machine and save the trees!
It's a running gag.
As quick as you do that, Ryan goes on the attack again. Apparently, he controls at least a segment of the splicers, and he sent roughly 21,840 of them after you. So you need to seal the lab so they can't get in and stop the vector from being spread, so it'll save the trees!
Oh, did I
But take your wee package through the pneumo. It's not much, but every little bit counts.
Oh, Christ! Here they come!
Now you fight off 3 waves of them while the vector is getting into position, or something like that. Once that's done and you've fought off who knows how many splicers, plus at least one big daddy who wandered into the melee, you go back in and throw one more lever to actually deploy the vector. So it only took about an hour of gameplay, going from one end of the place to the other, and killing dozens of crazy people to save the trees!
Say, this joke is dead.
Well, at least it wasn't complicated. And as soon as you're done, Atlas has another job for you. Get to the metro station and catch a ride to your next destination, Ryan himself. So it's into the bathysphere again, and you're off to a place called Fort Frolic. Okay. And you didn't really expect it to be that easy, did you? No, the first person you encounter in Fort Frolic is a self-proclaimed artist named Sander Cohen. He's one of those not-so-rare people who talks in lofty terms and goes on for hours and actually says absolutely nothing. But your next task is to find him. This is going to be interesting. He invites you to join him in Fleet Hall, but when you get there, all you see is some guy playing the piano while Cohen's voice rags on him about how he's not doing it right. The guy finally throws a fit and Cohen, incinerates him. I play a pretty good piano myself, but if this is how the critics react, then I'll take up video games or something. Anyway, Cohen tells you to take the kid's picture, he calls him Fitzpatrick, and go immortalize him in Cohen's masterpiece. There's a lot that goes by the title of art that I don't understand, but I think this one surpasses them all.
And there's Fitzpatrick, freed of his own kinks and defects. And here's the glorious news. This is just the moment of deception. Out in this place, there are 3 men, all former disciples of mine, all connected by a common thread, betrayal. Find them, little moth, and immortalize their mortality in my quad tick. Go. Once they've been sent to their reward, you shall go to yours, and to Ryan.
Translation: go kill 3 more people and take their pictures, then put them in this monstrosity. I think we can safely say this guy is not a misunderstood artist. He's a freaking nutcase. Too bad you're pretty well at his mercy, because until you get past him, you don't know what to do next. I just wish he'd quit calling me Little Moth.